online broadcast network, AfterBuzz TV. Over 20 million weekly downloads from over 200 countries and your #1 source in after-show entertainment. AfterBuzz TV, the destination for TV superfans. Producing after shows for over 300 of your favorite TV shows. Interviewing celebrities and showrunners. And bringing you behind-the-scenes exclusives. All thanks to E! Entertainment's Maria Menounos, producer Kevin Undergaro, and internet leader Akamai. Now, let the buzz begin!
No American...
Hello and welcome to UFC AfterBuzz TV. We are here talking about UFC 177. Although under very unusual circumstances, it was still a great fight card with some awesome fights. For those of you who weren't here last week, me and my buddy here, George Hermoza, made a bet. And the bet
who
was...
are you, though?
I'm Daria Berenato. Hold on, I'm going to get to the intros in a second. This is part of the bet. We made a bet that I said Shayna Baszler was going to win. He said Shayna Baszler was going to lose. Shayna Baszler lost, so...
And now the loser dies.
The loser dies.
So come to Hollywood and Vine at 8:30 for the public execution.
Mm-hmm.
We're bringing those back. We're bringing those back.
Yeah. No, but here's my beautiful, amazing, charming, awesome, darling co-host, George Hermoza.
And the
and
thing.
My awesome, amazing, charming, Caucasian co-host, Jay Tan.
You made a bet with him too?
I didn't. Yeah. No, I just wrote on the coattails there. I didn't know that was.
It lessens whatever my descriptions was.
He told me I had to give him an over-the-top introduction, and I knew it would piss him off.
Forgot,
if I added Jay into it.
You forgot one key part that I told you in the trailer, but I guess you're not going to do it.
I'm not going to do that.
Number one.
Then never mind.
It was very inappropriate, America. So thank me for not doing it.
Yeah, some of you are you're lucky to be listening on iTunes rather than YouTube. This one.
True. Yeah, this would be a very bad visual. No puns intended. Anyway, we are going to be discussing T.J. Dillashaw, not versus Renan Barao, but versus Joe Soto.
Who?
Okay,
exactly.
This was a big game changer last minute. UFC 177 was scheduled to go yesterday with T.J. Dillashaw defending his title for the first time against Renan Barao, the guy who he stole the title from originally in the beginning.
Stole.
He didn't steal it.
Won it. I think he stole it by that performance, but whatever. Win, steal.
By dominating them for 4.5 rounds?
That was some awesome footwork.
Yeah.
But how was that stealing?
No, it's not stealing.
Not stealing in a bad way. Maybe
it was my drama. I was trying to dramatize
rested it. Took it.
I don't know about wrestled.
Finagled it, yeah. He wrestled.
He finagled. He really had to finagle it.
Maybe not that either.
Yeah,
no.
I don't think so.
But he claimed it in a big way.
He claimed it. That's a good one. We all agree on claimed. He claimed the title from Renan Barao. It was supposed to be a rematch. Anyway, Renan Barao fainted during weight cutting and had to...
He hit his head.
And hit his head. Did he hit his head?
Yeah. That's the story.
That's what he said, yeah.
He had,
okay.
It was a difficult weight cut. Well... those last couple of pounds, he had about 3 to go. And in an interview with Joe Rogan, before the event itself, before the main card, he was saying that he was dehydrating in a tub, probably with Epsom salts.
Epsom salt, I'm sure,
and, and I think got up really fast, fainted, hit his head in the tub.
It makes sense. I mean, Renan Barao has been known to have hard weight cuts in the past. He's always made it. He hasn't always made it. I think he's had...
No, he hasn't.
He's always made it.
He's always made it. So this is the first time Renan Barao's never made it. But he's always had hard ones.
Henry Cejudo, who we'll talk about later as well, he's the one that also... This show was cursed with 2 really bad cases of people not making weight.
Right.
You know, important matches, and Henry Cejudo, pardon me, for those that don't know, Henry Cejudo is a U.S. Olympian in wrestling at 121. I'm not sure if it was 1 Olympics or 2 Olympics ago. But,
2008, yeah, Beijing.
Beijing,
okay. So he's fought several times. He's had a pretty decent career in independent other regional promotions, and this was his first chance in the UFC. And unfortunately, he had wrestled at 121 only 6 years ago.
Right.
Of course, wrestled all his life, as you do when you get to the Olympic level. and unfortunately for the 5th time in a row could not make 125. He's had a record of this since November 13th, either forcing a fight to be canceled or catch weights at 128. But this was his first chance in the UFC, and he was clearly not able to make.
He was
125.
A very highly anticipated fighter coming to the UFC. I mean, not only because he's an Olympian, but he was a really good competitor in MMA, not in the UFC. So he's
I believe undefeated.
Well, not only just an Olympian, but because Cormier's an Olympian, but he's a gold medalist.
Oh, good point. Yeah. And it's so funny that out of all people not to make weight, an Olympic wrestler.
For a wrestler to not make weight is like a boxer forgetting a combination.
Or forgetting a glove, like UFC 1.
Something like that. Yeah, sure. Art Jimison. So yeah, there's 2 very strange scenarios of people that know how to cut weight and have a long history of weight cutting.
But on a good note, Joe Soto stepped in to take on the title match against TJ Dillashaw. For those of you who don't know Joe Soto, you will soon enough. He is a pro, but he's definitely not new to the scene of MMA. He's 15-2. He's held championships in, I think, 2 other organizations.
Tachi Palace in Central
Bellator.
California.
And
I think he
Bellator,
fought for... did he have the title in Bellator?
Yeah.
I thought he fought.
He was a champion in Bellator.
Champ in Bellator.
Okay, I sit corrected.
So last minute, Dana White, Joe Silva, they were finagling around trying to find someone to fill this spot against TJ Dillashaw. And they found Joe Soto. Although he was just making his UFC debut, like we said, he's no newcomer to the sport. So it kind of made sense to us.
He's a name that's certainly credible, but doesn't the mainstream fans haven't been introduced to him yet. Not on the level of the UFC.
Right.
But I mean, now they have, and what a great performance!
What a great performance! Before we get to that, I think someone just snuck in through,
let's get our man
the door
here. Yep, let's
We're
do
here
the intro.
with Mr. Kenny Johnson. He is the wrestling coach of MMA. He's coached guys from Lyoto Machida to Anderson Silva. He works over at
our audience.
That's our live audience, guys. He's coached guys of all calibers. He's over at Black House MMA. That's right here in SoCal. Kenny Johnson,
and
welcome.
Founder of Bolt Wrestling Systems, right?
Hey, yes, thank you. Sorry, I had to sneak in a little bit.
That's all right.
Glad
You're
you
here.
got here, bro.
Yeah, 30 minutes from PV.
Now,
Jesus.
Flying.
Wow.
Were you? I hear you were on a motorcycle.
Yeah, on the Harley, had to fly
He
down.
was on his Harley.
Was that one of the ones you got from from coaching on one of the tough seasons?
I was just gonna say that.
No, this is one I actually paid for, but they would like to give me one. Another one.
Did they give you
FLHX.
one on?
No, they
Tough?
got it was I can't remember who got it off the
How many
Tough show.
seasons have you coached on Tough?
I just finished my 3rd one. I did
Wow.
the season 8 with Nogueira versus Mira. Was that season 9? I did season 2 in Brazil with Verdum versus
okay.
Nogueira.
Oh, cool.
We just wrapped and it just started Tough Latin America.
Okay.
And I think it's on its maybe 2nd episode airing.
Just
it's
did
already in
his
Latin
first
America.
recently, Kane and Junior
Kane
Dos
versus-
Santos.
No, Kane
Verdun.
versus-
I'm sorry.
Fabricio Verdun.
Misspoke.
And then Verdun fights Kane for the title on November 16th.
Right. Well, let's set up, because this is going to be a really interesting conversation
It's gonna be
this
very
hour,
interesting.
because we've got a lot of different levels to cover here.
Yes.
Let's. Should we run down the results?
Yeah, I'm gonna
first
run
here?
down the results real quick, and then I want to get back
We're
a
going to
little
talk about
bit.
Kenny's background and why he's so relevant here, not just to. He's got perspective on Henry Cejudo's weight cut, as
Yeah,
well
that's what I was
as
gonna
Barao's, his connection with a lot of the Brazilian fighters, top level guys. So he's got a lot of analysis or a lot of insight to bring to this situation.
Definitely.
Here.
Let's start from the bottom of the card. We had Yancy Medeiros versus Damon the Leech Jackson. Yancy Medeiros took it round 2. They were calling it all sorts of things. A reverse bulldog choke.
Yeah.
What else did they call it? A reverse guillotine. I don't know what they were saying, but it was a gnarly choke and super tight from the beginning. The Leech was, as I said in my notes, leeching in the first round, holding
Sticky on Yancy.
Yeah, wrestling on Yancy Medeiros. Great takedown defense by Yancy Medeiros, though.
It looked kind of like Damon Jackson, the Leech, kind of put himself in a bad scenario in trying to get out. Yancy had, I believe, the beginning of a guillotine,
Right.
And Damon twisted his body away from Yancy.
Almost put his back
Exactly,
to
such
Yancy.
that you end up back to back looking away from each other.
Right.
Yancy Medeiros kept that choke on, and I believe they kind of rolled to the ground.
Yeah, he kind of like slowly took him to the ground with it behind him, which is so
It was
odd.
between reverse bulldog choke, which I don't personally know. It reminded me of a reverse of a dragon sleeper that you get from Japanese pro wrestling.
I think that's a reverse bulldog choke's got to come from All-Star Wrestling for sure.
You would say what?
Joe Rogan
said it, man. It wasn't
Hey,
even me.
he grew up with All-Star Wrestling, so maybe he's watching Jimmy
true.
the Superfly Snuka versus the Crusher, the Bruiser.
something like that. Although guaranteed those guys never hit that submission.
Right.
But that was a thing of beauty, to be sure. Yeah, and for his efforts, he won Performance of the Night, or Performance Bonus.
Yeah.
One of the two. The other being
Damon
TJ
Jackson
Dillashaw.
was like out cold instantly.
Yeah.
As soon as they brought it to the ground, you see his eyes roll back in his head,
Yeah.
and you're just like, oh god.
Yeah,
that's
that was
tight.
one of two really nasty pass out submissions last night.
Definitely. And then next on the card we have Ramsey Najem versus Diego Ferreira. Round 2 TKO by Diego Ferreira. He's undefeated. He's now is he now 10-0 or 11-0? 11-0.
Yeah. And this one ended up winning Fight of the Night. It really was. The first time I watched it myself, I didn't get into it too much, but I think I was really just distracted because it went on to win Fight of the Night, and we've been watching it like 2 or 3 times since we got here today, and it really was a great back and forth battle. Ramsey was pretty aggressive in the beginning. Diego Ferreira kind of laid back and I think picked his pace, but then really took the fight to Ramsey. And there was a lot of great scrambles on the ground. Diego was laying it on him pretty heavily on the feet, and was able to catch Ramsey. Let's see, dropped him with a right. Ramsey had escaped a guillotine choke. Diego, they were both on their feet. Diego lands a right on Ramsey, drops him, and follows up with ground and pound right before the second.
What did you think of that one? Did you watch the fights?
I got to see. I didn't see the first couple. I saw the last.
Okay,
one, so,
we'll
but that
bring
I
in
saw
on
the
those.
replay of that one. That was I like that one.
Right?
Yeah.
It was. I didn't think about that as being one of the. I was looking at the card and I was distracted about. I was just waiting to get to see Soto versus. So I wasn't paying attention to the earlier fights, a couple of them, and then I rewatched that one and I'm like, hey man.
Yeah,
That's
Really
cool.
down.
that was a good choice for that one. There were quite a few really great matches in general. We should talk a little bit later about this being a show that everybody was crapping on and saying it went from bad to worse in terms of the caliber of the stars. But
The only thing it went from bad to worse was what you just said. The names of the stars, the actual showbiz sell behind it. The actual
there was some great action
quality
there.
of the fights was fantastic.
Yeah.
I mean, I enjoyed them.
I think that's 100%. I think that people, before you knew who Anderson Silva was, like even Rich Franklin, when he was fighting Anderson, I think it's Anderson's second fight in UFC. He's fighting the title.
Yep.
He goes, "Why am I fighting this guy?"
Yeah.
I mean, that just goes to show you, you
Anderson
never know
was-
who's going to be. Anderson was already cage rate champ, whatever else, but still
He had lost in pride, and you could say, well, he was a guy that lost in pride. The real Chonin,
But at the same time, Rich is like, why am I fighting this guy?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And
Who is this guy?
And a lot of people didn't know Anderson's name, even though he had already been a big name, or so other places. And other people, before there was a Chuck Liddell,
Right.
there was no Chuck Liddell. All of a sudden, you hear his
Right.
name, but the first time he's coming in, people are
Yeah.
like, "Who's this?"
Right.
And that's
It's
my
not
bone to
Dan
pick.
Severn. It's not Dan Severn. It's
Right. It's not a guy you recognize. It's some new guy that, now I've got to learn who this guy is. Well, yeah, if you're a fan of MMA, you got to. And that's my
Right.
beef. I have a bone to pick with a lot of casual MMA fans and anybody that says that this wasn't worth watching.
Right.
If it's not worth watching, then maybe you're just a casual fan. And if that's the case, okay, cool. Not a problem.
Right.
Just don't complain about it.
Exactly. Yeah, you can't have your cake
How many
and eat it,
baseball
too.
games are on every day?
Shoot,
Way too many.
Football,
At least
or
26
anything.
or so. Yeah.
I was going through my TV and there's 75 channels just Major League Baseball after show,
Right.
pre-show, during show.
So true.
From home plate, from first base. I mean, it's hey, great, but we have not even remotely close to that much MMA. Now they're talking about if we have 5 or 6 a month, they're talking about how it's overkill.
Influx,
And I'm
right?
thinking, how about a few years ago when those same people were begging because they'd only get one a month? Remember back in the day?
Or one every 2 to 3 months.
That's the people like, we appreciate our sport. Our sport's the toughest in the world.
Yeah.
Now there's 5, 6, and there's only like 400 or 500 fighters contracted probably. So how often can they fight? So you better learn some new guys because you can't just, guess what? since you're not UFC 1 anymore, it's UFC 176 or
That's
so.
77.
So like, look how many fighters have come and gone, how many champions. They're like, you almost think you can't do without Tito, Chuck, Ken Shamrock, all these guys. How could this ever go on without them?
Right.
It had to go on without them.
And it
They're
evolves.
going to get older.
It's going to go on without all these guys here. In a couple of years, these guys will be gone. There'll be new guys.
I think that's how important the Ultimate Fighter is, because at least with me, watching these guys like Tony Ferguson and Ramsey Najim, who came from the Ultimate Fighter, I already have that emotional investment because I watched the show. So I know who these guys are. I want to see these guys. Oh, cool. I saw these guys on the Ultimate Fighter. Now I get to see them fight on the main card, on the main show, on the main pay-per-view.
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah, so I think that's how that show helps, not just, finding a winner, but finding guys who you can emotionally invest in.
I mean,
go ahead.
A guy like Joe Soto, I mean, that's an opportunity that's so rare, so far and few in between, but he got that, and that is how his name got on the page. It would have maybe taken him years to do so otherwise, who knows, because he was making his UFC debut as of yesterday, and then he got a title shot.
He just fought 17 days ago against one of the guys that fought for me as an amateur.
My teammate, Terrion Ware.
Yeah. So it's like...
It's such a crazy world.
And I blew Terrion up when he lost to him. I was like, hey, bro, if you had just been studying wrestling under me for like the last 2 years instead of thinking
I think every wrestling coach that ever worked with Terrion said that to him after.
And then when dude got the title shot, I called him. I said, hey, man, just think if you just stop that takedown, bro, you'd be fighting for the title, possibly. So
only a wrestling coach can get away with that too. Because if somebody like me tried to do that, he would find me and kick my ass, and rightfully so. You know, only a coach could do that. But man,
and I had talked to him, and I see him, and I just felt, I saw he had posted on Facebook. He had a tough fight, and he's a tough fighter. Yeah. So I did it in all with, helping to come up, but I blew him up real nice on his Facebook. Yeah. And I was so sorry, Terry, but I had to. And it was for a fire, not because. To do anything else, because I know him, and I was like, if you adjust, the only fights this guy loses is wrestling, takedown defense. And so I had to put him. And then,
although in this one, well, no, he lost.
In
by
the one against Soto,
but he was losing in the striking in general.
And so then I was just like, you've been doing wrestling. And then when he got that call, I was like, man, that could have been you. Yeah, could have been you.
Well, Terrion's got a long, great career ahead of him as well.
For sure,
definitely.
Yeah. That's why it's important to always be ready. Don't like have a camp for 6 weeks and then you go whatever you do. He didn't
want to give us any of his examples.
I don't want to give any examples, not for me, but you might fall off the wagon in a lot of different areas and then go train for the biggest day of your whole life and just take 6 weeks to do it. So make it a lifestyle. And Joe Soto did. He's like, just like when Dana called him, he's like, hey, I'm in. And you know what? I've been here before.
And that's another point to a longer conversation as well. It's really getting to be a scenario with fighters where they have to stay ready. Whether they're making their UFC debut, because we talked to Alan Joban about that, and he's on the list. He was explaining how they've got a list of go-to guys for a last-minute fallout. Here's a list of guys they can go to and stick them in, and boom, you're officially a UFC fighter. And that's great. The system is changing because of the new schedule and influx of events, and I think we will eventually, just by the nature of the more events, it'll dilute ratings or pay-per-view buys. It won't if you get those stars. If those stars come up from this crop of, what did you say, 500 fighters?
Maybe like 400, 500. That could be off by
there are going to be John Jones that come out of there, Ronda Rousey's, Anderson's, Michael Bisping's, Chael's, guys that you want to watch and hope that you get to see them get their ass kicked, or that you want to see them come up and win. That's going to happen. And so they're just throwing a wider net. Now, they have to accept that probably the ratings, are going to be hurt because fans are going to be overloaded with shows. But I don't
know if you want, like that's if you want to call overloaded. It's like this: what are baseball ratings? I don't know. There's obviously a lot of baseball fans. Baseball's been around over 100 years. So, but the fact of the matter is, it used to be like you have to wait and one pay-per-view would come on, or now they have the Ultimate Fighter. They've got the shows on Fox. They've got the on Fight Pass. Then they've got, hey, you know what? That's exactly what you want. You want to be home on a day, just boop, and kick on fighting. And you know what? For us, it's always kick the fighting on. And what is it? It's reruns. And typically, I don't know one person that clicks the TV and go, oh, shit. It's the Brewers and the Padres from last year. And just watch it.
That's a very valid point, my
Nobody.
friend. Yeah.
When? They might show a vintage game when like OJ played or something.
Right.
I'll watch that
classics.
for a little while. Right. But that's, you know what you're getting. You're not going to just go, oh, I can't come out tonight, bro. I'm watching a rerun of fucking
Padres and Cardinals from '83,
and nothing happened. Extra inning 0-0.
If it's that Anderson Silva or GSP match and people are flipping through and it's the one where he knocks him out in the second round.
Yeah.
Or
I mean,
like
I must have watched that.
But you might even not watch it because you'd be like, all right, okay, I saw that 45 times, you know. I'll just keep going or I'm going to leave. But now they got the situation where, man, it's starting to come up. I understand with the ratings comes the commercial, how much sponsors and all this, they're going to find it. But what's nice is you can just kick the TV on and find new programming. And I know it's not just UFC. You have World Series of Fighting, you have Bellator, a lot of just fighting in these organizations. Although they're, definitely, we have the Gorilla and then everything else. But still, it's fresh fighters. Yeah. And so a lot of these guys are coming from UFC and going that way, or coming from here and going up to the UFC. Yeah. But it's fresh fighting. It's fresh thing, and it's a sport you like. Just like when you kick baseball, if you're a football fan, you just, football's on. You don't care.
Yeah. Right. That's what we were talking about in the trailer.
Fighting's on. I don't care. And then you got a choice. And they're doing a pretty good job where I know they don't want to go head-to-head with the UFC. So typically, you can watch all of them, and they'll have to pick. If you got TiVo...
TiVo? Who's got TiVo now, man?
I don't know,
man. It's DVR time, son.
Well, when I get my answer machine,
that's
clear
so
my
2006.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's finish up. Let's talk about some of these the top three here.
Betch Correia.
Speaking of the new stars,
undefeated.
here's a
This was the fight that I was waiting for. Not just because we made a bet, but I love that whole backstory behind it of just kind of Betch going through the 4 horsewomen or whatever they want to be called.
We all love that.
She went through Jessamine Duke already, and now it's Shayna Baszler's up. And unfortunately, she won't be able to fight Marina because she's not in the UFC.
Different
but
weight class as well.
Yeah,
and
plus,
that girl said she's not even concerned with her. So on to the next one. She's got one more.
And even Shayna, again, coming up from the UFC, or I'm sorry, the Ultimate Fighter, but she's kind of the pioneer of women.
It's weird to say Shayna Baszler came up from the Ultimate Fighter because Shayna Baszler was around.
Shayna Baszler's been around for
years ago.
She was with us.
That's right.
Pro Elite.
Pro
10 years, man.
Yeah.
She's been pro since 2003.
But this is her first UFC fight.
Right. Yeah. It was
officially.
her UFC debut, not including the Ultimate Fighter, where she lost immediately after getting into the house. Yeah. Which was also a bummer when I watched it because I'm like, you're a veteran. I've been watching you for years, and to get in a house with these new fighters and to see them, maybe, I don't know, the timing's wrong. She was in a sport before it was big, and now it's big, and her time's passed. Who knows? But anyway, Betch Correia.
She was very competitive, though. Let's give props to Shayna.
I gave her that first round.
I gave her the first round, too.
I definitely gave her that first round.
She clinched up and was aggressive with Correia.
Good wrestling.
Yeah, and a nice guillotine choke the last 10 seconds. That first round was close, but Shayna held her own. And because of that guillotine choke at the end, I gave her the 10-9 for that one.
Yeah, I would completely agree. I gave her a 10-9 as well. But
and then in the second round, Correia just kept her up against the cage.
Like that last minute was just kind of brutal to watch.
It was brutal to watch.
Yeah.
I know it was a different scenario. Well, it reminded me, I think, this pretty much the same finish locationally as the Jessamine Duke fight, although I know Jessamine had broken her hand, I believe, in that one, and couldn't do much at that point. But, she got her up against cage and just started teeing off on Shayna. Really good combinations.
Really good combinations.
Shayna stayed up for her own part. I personally think she was out a little bit on her feet. Not fully out, but she was taking those shots cleanly,
Yeah, she was eating them. And, I mean, after the first couple combinations that Betch threw, Shayna's hands were down by her side. She wasn't even defending. And you heard John McCarthy say, Shayna, defend her. I'm going to stop it. Defend her I'm going to stop it. And she didn't defend. So he had to stop the fight. I think when you're getting blasted with that high of a volume of punches that are hitting somewhat hard. I mean, they were hitting her. They weren't TJ Dillashaw.
It was like body, shot, head shot, body.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were hard.
They were doing damage, and it takes the wind out of you. It takes the heart out of you sometimes. So she put her hands down, and John McCarthy had to stop it.
Yeah.
But then we had Tony Ferguson versus Danny Castillo. That was supposed to be fight of the night according to Dana White, but it turned out quite differently. Yeah, Dana White said he predicted that to be fight of the night.
Oh, okay.
He thought it was going to be a perfectly matched fight. It ended up being quite a wrestling match. Kenny, what did you think of that one?
I thought they both came out in the second round and they both didn't look. It looked like they trained. No offense, but it looked like they trained for a half a round fight.
Right.
They were really, really noticeably tired. Even Joe and mentioned, said they look definitely the pace has slowed down. I thought that. I was thinking there was going to be some fireworks in there because they both hit hard. They both have good wrestling.
Right.
But I thought it was going to be more of a battle of striking, to tell you the truth.
Because neither one of them want to go down to the ground with each other.
Or they've been, what Castillo just knocked out Charlie Bremen with that fake shot and blew him up and just knocked him out cold. I was thinking something like that was going to occur. And I think that they wore themselves out in the first round. And then they came back and it was just kind of a slow grinder. It was a little difficult to watch.
But Ferguson impressed me with his scrambling and work from the bottom. It looked like he was trying to make things happen.
It looked like he was trying to get out. The other guy was just trying to hold him down, and there was really no damage that was occurring. I thought they could have just broke that up in a second.
It stood him up. That's what I was hoping would happen.
It was getting real painful to watch this, kind of sliding back and forth, kind of holding. And obviously Danny he looked tired, and if he could just hold him there and get some rest, he didn't want to unload on him and then have him get up and have to deal with the feet. So I think it was a factor. The fight could have been more of what it was, but more exciting. I think that they both got tired, which obviously happens when you're in a fight.
Yeah,
but more so.
Yeah, Tony Ferguson's got some awesome jiu-jitsu as well. He's a 10th Planet guy. And you're right, his scrambling was great, but that's also something that tires both people out. Danny Castillo constantly trying to chase him down and get him back down, and him trying to get up. It's just like a winless battle, but it was a good fight overall. And the Darce chokes by Tony Ferguson
in the first round.
Man, I think that's it did it to him too. He's just kind of holding it.
He blew out his arms. That was a
like,
sweet choke that he clinched in there pretty tightly, and the fans were popping for it, even though it was Castillo in his hometown, and Castillo's the one caught in it.
Yeah.
But yeah, he had that. He was working for that Darce for like a minute.
Towards the end of the choke, he knew he wasn't going to get. I thought he should have transitioned, got out of there instead of letting it go and then being on his back, because I think that cost him.
Right.
Although it didn't cost him the fight, obviously, but I thought.
Yeah. But you think he might have burned out his arms for the second and third?
And I thought that he didn't have to end up on the bottom.
It made him
after the choke. I feel like when you're missing a hold's going to go away or an opening is closing, and I think that he should have transitioned out before he just let it go in on his back.
Right.
He could have stayed on top and capitalized.
Yeah.
There, but he was going for it, which I kind of like. He was going for the submission.
Yeah,
so it was nice.
That was the thing that won him the round for sure.
For sure,
I think, right?
For sure on that one. I thought because he had a minute, for like a minute or 2 minutes something.
Yeah,
he was going after it. So
yeah.
When Joe interviewed him after, he said something along the lines of, "You weren't trying to actually get it," and he said, "No, I was. Danny is just that good at defending."
Yeah, it looked like he defended really, because it looked like at first it was in nice and tight.
Right.
He stayed in there. I mean, Danny defended it really, really
well,
nice.
They said, he's used to wrestling with those team alpha male guys. They call him team guillotine sometimes. So he's used to getting his neck choked. So maybe that could have attributed to his resilience in that choke.
Yeah.
And then, of course, we had the main event. TJ Dillashaw versus Joe One Bad Mofo Soto.
Man, this one.
It was fun to watch.
It really
very
was.
Entertaining.
This is I have several opinions on it. When you talk about a champion defending on a 24-hour notice against a guy that hasn't been in the UFC at all, coming in, got a respectable record, but that hasn't been put through the UFC machine. That's one thing, and you can interpret that. Then you're talking about a match where I'm so fascinated by it. There weren't. I'm going to go out and say, generally speaking, for a championship fight, there weren't a lot of strikes thrown. Not nearly as much as you would otherwise expect. Both guys were very calculating, I'll say. I mean, I want to preface what I'm saying because I'll probably make it sound worse than it actually was. But both guys were very careful on their strikes, at least the first couple of rounds. I don't think Joe Soto threw a punch in the first minute.
We watched it, and we were actually counting how long. Yeah, it was like a minute and 30 before he threw a punch.
And by the same token, Dillashaw was very careful, leaning forward, dropping his hands, looking for that shot. But neither guy looked bad, at least in my remedial analysis of striking. Not like I have a long sparring history or anything, but it was an exciting, compelling match. Even on a replay, I enjoy watching it. And I was on the edge of my seat waiting to see what was going to happen and who was going to land.
Had it not been for Joe, first of all, TJ Dillashaw threw an immense volume of punches. But I think what you mean is that for TJ Dillashaw, it wasn't that much.
Yeah. At least compared to
For the normal fighter, it was a lot.
Compared to his match with Barao, he was not as commanding. It was much closer, I think. He didn't dominate Soto like he did Barao,
Right.
Who realized in that match that, holy crap, where the hell am I? What's going on?
Joe Soto's head movement was out of this world. I mean,
Yeah.
a guy like TJ Dillashaw, we've seen him hit Renan Barao around for however many rounds. And we're watching a guy, Joe Soto, who no one's expecting anything out of, bobbing, weaving, and dodging almost every punch for like a minute there in the second round.
His face didn't get tagged up nearly as much
And
as you would have
if you
expected.
look at damage done, I know we've seen fights where the guy who's damaged the most ends up winning. It doesn't mean everything, but if you look at damage done, if you look at TJ Dillashaw's face after the fight and Joe Soto's face, Joe Soto I think had a broken nose, but not the black
I think that
eye.
came from the last kick
Yeah.
and then the one punch.
Yeah.
Other than that, he was looking kind of flawless.
So what did you think?
You know, that was the truest Rocky story ever.
Right.
Apollo Creed came into town, picked a guy that's 50th on the depth chart, and creates a fight, and Rocky loses, but's a winner. I thought this one is the same thing.
Joe Soto had nothing to lose.
You know, at the same time, for everyone else, they're looking at it, yes, but to himself, like he said, hey, I've been here before. This is my first rodeo.
Yeah.
Right.
It's one of the biggest bulls he ever had to ride in that rodeo, but, you know.
That's a good way to put it.
So he came in. I thought the first round, I was wondering what was going to happen. It looked like Dillashaw was kind of pressuring him, walking him down. I was like, oh, you know, he found his rhythm, and then he started pressuring down. And I think that was, to me, I thought that was one of the better fights of the night, and I think that was a good title fight. If that would have been the matchup from the get go, I was very
Nobody
very
would have said
impressed.
anything.
No one said anything. They were
Right.
who's Joe Soto? I mean, Joe Soto has been in the game for years, man.
Right.
He's the Bellator champ. So when he came out there, I was wondering how it was going to be, and that dude looked calm as you could be.
Yeah.
Just came out and brought it. And you know, he didn't throw as many strikes, but his strikes counted. He was hitting. He was getting some solid counter strikes. So
TJ Dillashaw was throwing 20 punch combinations, but one would land, and it wasn't even significant enough to make Joe Soto go back or anything like that. Joe Soto would land, pick his one, pick it smart, and land it, and you would see real reaction from TJ Dillashaw.
Yeah. I don't want to sound like an apologist for the UFC, but this was a fun, exciting show to watch.
Absolutely.
Even though going in, it seemed like there was a lot going against it, you know, and really kind of like tragic, you know, oh crap, Henny Penny, the sky is falling kind of scenario. It delivered. The fighters gave us some fantastic matches and really competitive stuff, you know. That said, man,
Mr. Kenny fucking Johnson. Can I say that?
yeah, you just did.
You just did.
And that's, honestly, the history is that this is my man from back in...
Jay told me to.
Yeah, 2007, 2008, we worked together at Pro Elite, and this was before, was it Eastbound and Down came out, and you have Kenny Powers, was it Danny Green's character. And I don't even think that you know. I mean, that's where it came from. Turi Altavilla and I were we talked about that. You never knew? Because nobody else calls you that?
only you, man. I know every time I call Jay, I get, or he calls me, I know it's going to happen, and then it's like a signature thing. If I doesn't do it, I'm going to be mad as hell.
Yeah, and you're like, what happened?
Danny McBride on Eastbound and Down, Kenny fucking Powers is how he likes to refer to himself, and the stories that this guy would have. So at Pro Elite, you know, we were both in the office. He was working sponsorships. I was doing a lot of the international stuff, and he was in the cubicle behind me. And we had this little kind of cubby farm, you know, with a couple other people. One other guy was a fighter as well, working the exec position there. And this guy, Kenny, would constantly have these most ridiculous stories about almost beating the hell out of some guy, going up to some... I'm trying to remember, was the one where the door opened, there was a naked guy walking around with a broom? You remember?
Oh yeah, that's when they stole my. That's when they stole my cell phone or my bank account and was.
That's it. Yeah, there was like credit card fraud. Yeah,
tracked it down.
So this is the standard that I meet this guy Kenny.
Jesus.
Not knowing, you know, I know you got a wrestling
I want to know
background.
that whole story.
Yeah, okay.
We'll do that offline after the show because it's worth another hour's worth.
If you guys want to hear, we'll film a little after show on our phone and we'll post it on our Facebook pages.
And the one guy in my neighborhood, when I put the mustard on the dog shit, it made him. Remember that one?
What? I don't know if you told me that one or not, but again,
it could
this
be an
sounds...
offliner.
Yeah,
be an offliner for. So stay tuned for more.
The AfterBuzz. The AfterBuzz to the AfterBuzz.
Yes.
After the buzz.
It's the AfterBuzz.
AfterBuzz
Yeah.
after hours. Yeah. So this is my impression of Kenny Johnson, and on top of that, this guy goes and gets a couple of fights at Elite XC.
The same at the weigh-ins.
When you're working.
Oh, the second one was at the weigh-ins.
The first one.
Oh, was it the first one?
No, the second was at the weigh-ins.
Yeah, because they had already you were planning on fighting. They were going to give you a fight at one point.
The first fight was planned,
right?
And that was like a few weeks out, so I got that one. And then the next one, we were up in Fresno.
Yeah.
It was like 150 degrees with the tents. The dressing rooms are in the tents.
Yeah,
It's a beautiful idea.
Oh my god!
But that's when I was helping Melanie cut weight, my girlfriend at the time, and so I said I'll cut with you, and she was 10 over. So I cut all day with her. She made weight, but we were in the sauna, and this guy. So I walk out to go get some stuff. I come back in. This guy's like, "Yeah, you need to do it this way. You need to do it this way." I was like,
Melanie?
"Yeah." I was like, "You need to shut the fuck up," because he was talking about cutting weight. And he's like, "Oh, I'm 12 or I'm gonna make it, no problem." And he was saying some things.
Kenny fucking Johnson right now. Go.
Yeah, so I said, and he was sitting there. I said, "Man," I said, "Listen to me." I said, "Don't listen to this fucking asshole. He doesn't know what he's talking about." And so he's looking at me. He's, "Well, I'm fighting it tomorrow." I said, "If you fight tomorrow, you're probably gonna get your ass beat." And I was like, "So shut up and don't talk to her no more," because she had 10 pounds to lose. That was the day of.
And you got to focus on that.
Oh wow!
So she was 10 over because she just didn't want to cut the weight in advance. So hence leading into our weight cutting.
Yeah, right.
So she made weight. I lost all the weight, so I dropped her off. She had to get her pictures and stuff, and I was like, "Hey, I'm gonna go park the car." There's a McDonald's around. I was like, I said, "I wouldn't eat, and I'll cut 10 with you. I'll cut 10, you cut 10." So I dropped. I was in the drive-through, and that's when Jeremy and JD called me like, "Hey, do you want to fight tomorrow?" One of our guys didn't make weight. Guess which asshole did make weight?
Boom.
The 12-pounder that was talking shit to your girl.
They almost got knocked out in the sauna to begin with by somebody I know. So
that is awesome.
I ended up taking his spot and then fighting, and I lost a split decision, which I thought I won. And I remember, and I got cut open real bad. It was just not what you wanted, but it was nice because I had some sponsors there because I was the sponsorship director, and so I was like, they didn't know I was gonna fight because I was like, hey, come walking out with their stuff, and they're like,
right.
Then afterwards came set back down by him. I actually closed the deal at that fight just by having the fight. So that was kind of the deal.
I didn't know that part. That's hilarious. So that's a nice segue into this whole issue we're dealing with here with weight cutting. What do you make about this? Now you've worked with Brazilians who don't necessarily have the strongest pedigree in wrestling, right? And then, but you also you've tried out for the Olympics. What, 5, 6 times?
6
going on. Yeah.
6
so
times.
You know about this whole thing, and have you worked with Henry in the past?
I haven't worked with him, but I've trained alongside him and whatnot. But I can put it this way.
What do you make of this, man?
Okay, I'm going to tell it to you real easy.
Yeah.
This isn't anything to do with culture. This isn't anything to do with black, white, brown, Asian, other. This has to do with 2 main things. One, the first rule of Fight Club is make fucking weight.
Right.
Because you can't have a second rule. If you don't make weight, you can't fight. So we've noticed that. So with that saying, you're mentally, you're a fucking midget and a pussy, and you're not professional. You can't make weight.
No, wait. Stop mincing words here. How do you feel?
Yeah. I think the most cardinal sin in wrestling, ask any wrestler, you don't make weight.
Yeah.
Because not only do you fuck yourself, you fuck the team.
This is an issue that the UFC dealt with back in the early 2000s, but not now. Everyone got the message.
No, they don't. Because what happened is, no matter what they do, they start regulating college wrestling. Now it's day of weigh-ins. You're like 1 hour before.
Right.
Look at jiu-jitsu. You weigh in, you step on the scale, and they take you right to your mat.
Yeah.
You don't have time to do nothing because you're going to compete within 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Do it that way.
So what's the benefit of that, though?
The benefit of that is, you know what? First of all, you're going to make weight. Or you're not. But these guys are, one, they're cutting too much weight, and they don't even know how to cut weight. These fucking assholes don't even know how to cut weight.
Yeah.
And here's the deal. You got a fighter that has like I don't want to mention specific names because I don't. Guys have, if you're a pro and have 20 fights, that's a lot of fights.
Yeah.
Do you know that 4th grade wrestler has 20 matches in like 3 months? He's made weight more than the average pro fighter in half a season than a pro fighter is going to make in their whole fucking career.
Yeah.
I've had over 1,400 wrestling matches. I made weight 1,000 times. I used to cut weight 1,000 separate actual weigh-ins. I used to cut 40 pounds. It's stupid. Sometimes I cut nothing.
Yeah.
It depends on the weight class. But you have to know. You have to know your body. And you have to know how to cut weight. And these guys are not fucking doing it. And they're 200 pounds and want to go 145.
Yeah.
And you see what's happening.
Anthony Johnson, right?
And then look, I trained Anthony when he's at 170, barely making weight. Then 185, to heavyweight. That dude's all over, and look at how he's doing. He kept the weight on, and I think he's having his career resurgence. I think some guys that go up in weight, if you're just getting fat, that's not the idea. The idea of cutting weight is you're supposed to, if everything is held constant, skill, strength, speed, everything, and you have a person that their body fat is less, their lean muscle mass is more, and everything else equal, then I should be stronger because I have less body fat. So if our muscle fibers are exactly the same, if I'm cutting, you have more fat on you than I do, that means I have more muscle. I should be stronger. That's the principle. But these people got the principle all fucked out of whack, and so they're just trying to cut a bunch of weight. And what they do too is it's like a cool thing. Oh, you know, I'm 20 over, it doesn't matter. I got it. Bullshit. Half of them don't have it, and they miss weight. And all these guys missing weight, it makes it 2 guys missing weight, and 1 guy's Olympic gold medalist. Fuck him. And even Dana told him, you're still in UFC, but at a different weight.
Yeah, you're either 35 or you're not doing it.
And you know what? Or you're not doing it. Get out. And these guys, you know, and they always talk about, they make it like, oh, the doctor said I couldn't go anymore.
Right.
No, you're a punk little ass. Stop. The doctor had to tell you that. So something happened to you and died, then the MMA is going to look bad. So you weren't doing it wrong to begin with. So a lot of these guys, I see them go in and they're not going to make weight. And you know, when the doctor asks you, how do you feel? And they go like this. Oh, man, I've been cut while I would.
Right.
That's like, okay, you don't want to fight.
Yeah.
And then they come out there like crying, I want to cut weight, but the doctor wouldn't let me.
Yeah.
Because you're a fucking asshole. And you didn't cut weight properly.
Yeah.
That's why we talk about be ready. It's a lifestyle. Look at a guy like Lyoto. Look at a guy like, you know, these guys it's a lifestyle. It's a year-round commitment. GSP, all these things.
Right.
Man, they're ready to fight and train every day of their life like it's a lifestyle. They're professional. Yeah. If you're a fucking doctor and you go to work for 6 weeks and then you just take 7 or 8 weeks off, you don't have a job no more. You won't have a job. And then if you go to work and you like go to work and then you pass out at work.
Yeah.
On the only day you have to do your job all year.
You're definitely not going to have that
you
job.
forget your lunch and you run out of gas and your dog eats your homework, you're going to get fucking fired.
Right.
Yeah.
It's only in this sport. And in this sport, too, there's only 2 things you can be overnight. You can be a fucking porn star or a fighter. Go sign up at your gym, get a fighting shirt, and now you're a fighter. Yeah. Or you can go be a porn star just down the street from where we are now in the Valley. That's it. You can't get shoes and just show up at the Staples Center and be like, I'm going to D up with the Lakers.
Right. Yep.
So a lot of people, they're not professionals.
Yeah.
They're adults, but they're kids.
Yeah.
They sign on the dotted line like they're a professional.
Right.
But they're a pussy.
Let me ask, so you think...
And one thing, I'm sorry and anyone that's ever missed weight, anyone that doesn't make weight or anything, they can say what they want. They're like, oh, he's an asshole. Yes, I am, by the way, in certain things. But I'm telling the truth. Anybody that's ever missed weight, what I'm saying right now, it feels like I'm talking right to you because I am. But at the same time, they're thinking, they're feeling, because they'll never fucking forget missing weight in their life. Yeah. I promise you. Yeah. As a kid, that kid will never forget. It's a terrible feeling to step on the scale and be like, nope. It's like you just got rejected. It's like you're going to kick a can all the way home. You got beat up at the schoolyard. Have to face your mom. So these guys, I'm sorry about, but that's the deal, and you'll remember it. If you've never missed weight, you don't want to have that feeling. And I'm talking to everybody that misses weight, and I'm talking to everyone that cuts weight like shit and then has a shitty performance and then is detrimental to what people say. Oh, they ran out of steam. Oh, I didn't feel good. I wasn't on my game. Man, you only have 3 fights a year.
Yeah. Right.
And the chances of something going wrong is okay. You could get sick, you could whatever. But the things you can control, you should control. Right. And the things you can't, like if you have all of a sudden wake up with strep throat, you can't control that. But man, you better be able to control your weight and your eating, man. You got to control what goes in your mouth.
That's what Dana White said. He's like, guys like Renan Barao, you have money for a nutritionist. Don't lie. You have money, especially at that level, to get the proper people in your life to track your diet, track your weight cutting, if you can't do it on your own.
But let's be honest. Who the fuck has a nutritionist? Everybody. Nobody. So they can't control what they eat. Because see, a nutritionist too, not taking anything away from what they do, because if they're good and they do a good job, that's what they're there for.
Right.
What you're going to prescribe for me to eat and not eat, because I don't eat like the average person, and the other average person doesn't eat like the other average person.
Right.
You have to know. And being a professional after 30 fights and all the training, you'd kind of know what I should eat, what I shouldn't eat, if I'm going to make weight, not going to make weight. See, that's a whole sport within a sport as well.
Right.
And so they should be learning how to cut weight properly. And there's a whole specific system in place. Has fucking nothing to do with your eating, because they talk about getting a nutritionist and they still cut 20 pounds the week of. Yeah. So what were they, 60 over? So the fact of the matter is you better learn. One thing no one wants to teach you, get a nutritionist, right? That's what Dan said. How about get someone near you that knows how to cut weight in the last 3 days?
Right.
And that's why I end up going with a lot of guys. And when my guys, I worked with one guy that didn't make weight, couple times, and that was early on. Then after Silva, then he never missed weight again. And I think that showed his growth, and it showed, like, I think he was learning as he was going. It wasn't a joke anymore. But after that, like, if anyone's even close to missing weight, they're looking at me like, bro, you're a wrestler, they can't make weight. I'm like, no, my guy's gonna make weight.
Don't you worry about it.
Make weight. That's what I think is really tough to digest in this whole Henry Cejudo thing. You know, not knowing him or his camp or his team or anything, I'm baffled by the fact that there were 5 different times that he didn't make weight. It either had to be a catch weight at 128 or the match got canceled completely.
Well, that's
Olympic
because
wrestler.
Well, that's if you're an Olympic gold medalist and you're going to some bullshit promotion, whatever it is, they don't want you to not be on the card because they're promoting around. How many Olympic gold medalists are there in wrestling in the last 4 Olympics? There's only been 2, 3 in 10 years, or in 3 Olympics.
Right.
You know, so it's a oddity, especially now he's going to fight.
Yeah.
That's someone to promote around, so he can use that as a crutch. He's not going to make weight. Call him up, tell him I need to catch weight. The promoter's going to do it.
Sure, the promoter
and guess
will
what?
do that
10% of your pay or 20% of your pay, well, you're only making like $800 anyways.
Yeah.
So you're going to get $80 or $150. So you have to lose the last 3 pounds, which is just like, you know, go dragging yourself through crushed glass. So he's had a crutch.
Yeah,
that's for sure. He's had a crutch, and the crutch is
People
the gold
were
medal.
willing to look the other way on him. Okay.
Very willing to look the other way. You know that shit doesn't happen in wrestling. If you don't make weight, you don't wrestle. There ain't no catch weight.
Yeah.
And same thing UFC.
And in wrestling, that culture that doesn't fly at all.
No, it doesn't matter who you are. If you miss weight, you're like dirt.
Yeah.
You know, so there is no in jiu-jitsu, you step on the scale. You can't even you check your weight. If they call your name, you go step on the scale. You have 1 chance. You step on, you're over, X'd off the bout. Not give me 5 minutes. Nothing.
There's nothing.
Nothing.
Yeah.
So there's no tolerance. And half of these guys that fight came from a jiu-jitsu background or wrestling. A lot of them came from those 2 things or something else, judo, kickboxing,
It's been something where
you had to make
part
weight.
of it. Yeah.
But a lot of these guys, to be fair, were adults and started this. And they never had a discipline. Like, if you have to go to school and do wrestling or football or something where you have to go there, and if you don't show up, the coach will get kicked off the team.
Right.
It's a different type of discipline. Now these fighters, they come and they train a couple days a week. Everyone says they train 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. Fuck off. No, you don't. You know? So they don't even train. If you were training much, you'd make weight. So obviously they're not.
Right.
I want to cut to it, though. We're talking, you said earlier, you know, that it was, I think what you were getting at, correct me if I'm wrong, is one answer that guys should be fighting at their natural weight. Either stay ready, right? Especially at the high level, at a UFC level, you've got to stay ready because that's your career. Should you be fighting at a higher weight, your more natural body weight, or should you just?
I think you should.
I think down less or what?
Well, I think that nobody does. I've worked with a lot of guys. I've had 14 UFC champs. I've worked with thousands of people. I've never seen one single person do a test weight cut.
Yeah.
Like, they don't even have a fight scheduled. So that means they're not going to fight for 2 months, 3, 4 months. I've never seen
the amateur guys talking about doing that these days when they want to cut down. One guy from Boss Rutan's gym, you know, he was coming down and he said, I'm going to give it a test run.
Do a test weigh-in. Like, for example, it's Monday. And you weigh in Fridays typically, let's say.
Okay.
Or if you're on Thursday show, or it's a Saturday weigh-in or whatever for U of MMA, one of the best promotions in the whole universe.
I love you, man.
If you're working on that, especially if it's amateur, it's the same day weigh-ins, you should do a test one. Like for example, start Monday and I'm 15 over. Okay, work out, train, come the day of the weigh-ins, make weight no matter what it takes, and then the next day or 5 hours later, do a fight. 3 5s. 3 3s, 3 2s, whatever it's 5 5s, whatever you're going to be.
Something in the gym.
And real. Warm up like the fight and have the fight and then find out second round, whew, that felt horrible.
Yeah.
Okay, next week, maybe don't cut weight again, but give it a week, train, then start looking at, that was a little bit too much.
Right.
So I'm going to come in, how about in 2 weeks, I'm going to start again. I'm going to start, instead of being 20 over, I'm going to start at 15 over. Because instead of waking up on day of weigh-in 10 over, I'm wake up 5. I'm gonna be 1 workout away, not 2, because 2 is horrible. 10 pounds is horrible. 5 is manageable. 3 is better. And everyone says, "Oh, I don't want to hold it down for so long." if you're doing it proper, you're not holding it down. You're maintaining and you're working it right.
Just being smarter about your
Everyone's
own body.
got these different ways to cut weight and things. So it's not the nutritionist. I think is who has nutritionists when they start off. But look at these guys.
Can afford it.
Did BJ Penn? Did Chuck Liddell? These guys came up just just swinging on fools, knocking fools out. Once you get more and more money, all of a sudden you like have a separate coach to start your car, a separate coach to tie your shoe. That's because you can afford it.
It's so true.
And then that's what they always say. It's to get to the UFC is hard. The stay is harder. Then you start getting people around. When you start getting more money, you start getting people around you. And you start seeing different things occur than would ever happen before. Man, if you're dying for that scrap of food, you're going to do everything in your power. If you have a bunch of food, you might waste some. And you have people around you. So nutritionists, I think, can put you on a path. What's going to happen is that person, you need someone that's with you that can cut weight for real the week of the fight.
Properly. In other words, start it earlier, be healthy about it,
and
get
someone
down more
someone that you can't run around. Like a lot of these fighters have the people in the camp, shut up, my body, I need to rest. You don't know, you're not fighting, you don't know, whatever. And everyone has to kind of shut up.
Right.
So if you have someone like for me, I don't take that shit at all.
You're not a yes man.
I don't need to be there. I want to be there. If they want me there and they want the same goals. But if I run into this thing, well, I'm out.
Yeah.
Because that's just not what I subscribe to. I subscribe to,
you don't
Dan Gable didn't miss weight.
You're talking about one of the greatest right there.
You can't come up with that.
Yeah.
And so you need someone around you that you give the key to and you give the power to run me around.
Yeah.
And then it's time to get out of the song. I'm getting out. Sit down. Okay. It's going to hurt, but I'm doing it right. I'm not going to do something wrong. I'm doing this right. I've explained to you what's going to go on. Here's how it's going to be. Now, instead of you cutting 2 pounds and still being 8 over, we're going to get 5 or 6 off. You're going to sleep, come back, and we're going to do it right. I've done this more times than, most. All my fighters put together, I've had more weigh-ins than every fighter I've ever had if you put all their fights and weigh-ins together. So it's just experience.
Yeah. Who besides yourself would you say, or maybe it's, specifically what kind of coach is the best for cutting? Who are the guys out there that you think are doing it properly? Or is it all just about being a wrestling coach?
No, I think if you're in a sport that you have to cut weight, and wrestling, a few years back they had a couple people die cutting weight, but it had to do with also at the same time the introduction of creatine. It was that same creatine was getting real big. They really realized that creatine, your cells retain the water as they're trying to cut all the water, but they're taking all massive loads, and that's when you have to load, like take a whole thing full. They had so they're staying dehydrating themselves beyond what they ever thought because their cells are retaining the water, and so their organs burnt up is exactly what happened. I think the wrestling is because wrestling is a grittier sport by nature. Hey, so is boxing, so is judo. All these guys got to make weight. I think that because wrestling is in high schools, in junior highs, there has been somewhat a regulation, in college, regulation of the weight. There's a system of weight that's been going on. Jiu-jitsu is relatively new to sport jiu-jitsu where you're making weight, because the original jiu-jitsu, there was no weight class. It was like, hey, anything. It wasn't about a sport. It was a self-defense.
Right. And like you said earlier, people start jiu-jitsu as adults. People don't start wrestling typically as adults.
Typically, some of these fighters do. And exactly.
Right.
And so this way they have had a work ethic ingrained. Like I told you, it could be football, it could be basketball, but a sport that's organized and that you start when you're a kid and it's in schools. They can't do stupid things because there's regulatory agencies like the school district, NCAA, something, and they have these rules: no plastics, day of weigh-ins, no diuretics,
you think
no
MMA
saunas.
should take a cue from the wrestling regulation?
They should take a cue right now.
Yeah.
Because here's what's happening. What's going to happen is these kids are getting younger and younger that are watching this.
Yeah.
And they're going to learn. And here's how you learn to cut weight. Whoever's around you that learn how, okay, bro, go spit in a cup. Sleep in your pajamas with your sweatsuit on and turn the heat up in your room.
Yeah.
Okay. Terrible. And then do that for 5 days in a row. Then they can't wrestle. Now what's happening is their kids are seeing these people miss weight. Or they're hearing them talking about, I cut 30 pounds, or I got this diet, that grapefruit 45 diet. Why don't you go on that one?
Yeah.
There's 1,000 different diets out there. 7,000 diets, I think. So if you look over across the world, what works is how much food you put in your mouth.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what either. If you eat cookies, still eat cookies. If you eat steaks, eat steaks. You know what you can do? You eat one way, you can switch to kale chips. You know what I mean? But
there is something about putting in the right food into your mouth.
It's quantity versus quality. It's been an ongoing argument for years. I mean,
each person's body is its own machine, and you know what? For me, I tried to eat clean, like vegetables and this and that. I might as well have shot myself. But I can't do it. I don't even like vegetables or fish. But so I like to drink soda. I like to drink beer. I like to eat my cookies. You know, some Kit Kats if I'm overseas.
But you work out like a beast too to kill those calories.
That's the deal. It's in the training. It's in the mental. You know, life is 99% mental. The other 1% is get out of bed. The other people got it backwards. So it's mental toughness, and they have to know what the cutting weight is about and how you do it properly.
I hate to cut you off. We are actually wrapping up here.
Yeah.
Kenny Johnson, it was a delight to have you on.
I feel like we just started to scratch the tip of it, right?
I feel like there's going to be like a part 2.
We do have to have a
part 2, part 3,
Guys,
part 4.
Kenny Johnson, part 2, to be announced. We will let you know. Kenny Johnson, you're such an informative guy, not just with wrestling, but with MMA in general. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you very much. I appreciate
any shout-outs you want to give? Your Twitter, your Facebook?
Talk about Bolt Wrestling, the website.
BoltWrestling.com. I think we're going to be going live with more of like a online training type stuff. So there'll be videos. I got the Bolt Wrestling video out. I have my app, Bolt Wrestling for MMA, available for iPhones at the iTunes store.
Nice.
And Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram's all Bolt Wrestling. And check out Black House MMA. On Facebook and that.
Yeah, we'll have to get into you and your students
and
on the
make sure when you're cutting weight, Sweet Sweat. I brought it to show you guys this.
Oh, cool.
This is it. It's for part 2. I promise you, if I would have had this 20 years ago, and this can help a lot. It's really helped a lot.
Plug right there.
There you go, guys.
Very cool.
Mr. J Tan.
Instagram, Facebook, and what's that other one? Twitter, JTan716. And Mom, I'm not fully caught up yet on Nurse Jackie, so don't erase the DVR, please. Thank you.
Twitter, Instagram, @Hermoza. Wait, say water.
Water.
You just like doing that. Stop being a verbal bully.
Water.
It's weird.
Say boat.
It's cute. That's an East Coast thing.
Say boat.
Boat.
About.
There.
No, she's not Canadian.
Exactly.
It's an East Coast thing. Exactly, yeah.
Canadian, Wisconsin.
Are you from the East Coast? Where are you from?
Wisconsin.
Oh, okay. I'm from New Jersey, so they make
East
fun of
Coast
me.
compared to here.
Oh, okay, you're from Jersey. Okay, that all makes sense now.
Yep. Okay.
Everything.
At Daria B28. I may be fighting October 11th. I will be back with details, guys. We will see you Sunday with an awesome new card.
We'll be back.
Thank you.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.
Thank you for watching AfterBuzz TV on YouTube. For more of your favorite after shows and interviews, subscribe to our channel here, and be sure to share your opinion on the episode in the comment section below here. We'd love to see what you guys are buzzing about. Thanks again. Buzz you later.